Hey everybody, Tony D with another hot take. This one is Donald Trump. Is he a racist? I say no. Short answer. Longer answer, look, guy's in his 70s. For the longest time, he was an 80s Democrat, and he did 80s Democrat things. He did business, but, he donated to the community, he donated to the Clintons. He had a whole dinner with Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton, and he got awards from the African American community. And he did all the things that businessmen do to keep up their image. Now, you can argue that secretly he held all these racist views and he just did that all for show. I guess, but really what you have to do is define your terms. What is a racist? If you're going to say that every guy who's ever told like a spicy joke or said a bad word or has a negative thought towards a group of people that's kind of stereotypical, are they a racist? Okay, if that's your standard, then you're dealing with an entire country of racists. Pretty much everybody. I mean, I know a few people who have never said anything that I've been like, what? What did you just say? And they go, oh, that's not what I meant. Look, everyone's had that moment. And you could say, oh, no, you're just talking because you're an old white guy. I used to be a young white guy. In fact, I was a young white guy, SJW, who was on SJW patrol. And I was the one who would say, oh, don't say that word. That's not nice. And I'm not saying I was a big activist, but I did it enough that I had the reputation that people would sometimes just say those words just to get a rise out of me. So, it is what it is. People have stereotypical views about all sorts of group of people, right? Everybody has a stereotypical view of lawyers, except, people who know lawyers, right? They say, oh, lawyers, they're all greedy people and they're sharks or whatever. That's a kind of prejudice. Now, it's not based on race. It's not based on ethnic background or religion or anything. But, it's a kind of discrimination and a kind of stereotype that, taken to the extreme, would be unhealthy. But people tolerate it because they're lawyers. It's a group of people that, it's just an occupation. So a lot of what is talked about and a lot of things that get thrown around are just like that, except when it comes to these other sensitive areas like race and gender and sexual orientation, people get all bent out of shape. Why? Well, for some people, they have legitimate concerns. They have legitimate trauma in their lives from encountering people who were aggressively racist or homophobic or whatever. And for those people, have a bit of a grievance, I guess. I don't know what that's like. I can't imagine. But at the same time, I can see that the racism from, say, the early to mid 70s, when I sort of became aware of it, to sort of this era, I mean, it's like night and day. I mean, back in that era, people would say horrific things, which was part of the reason I would call them out on it. And, as the years grinded on, those people either got educated, stopped doing it, or just died. Because they were from another time where those kinds of words flew. Now we have a situation in which there's probably the least amount of racism up until this point. People act on Twitter as if we're living in the dark times, a dystopian future where racist people rule us and we have no control. Resistance, the resistance. That's just simply not true from my perspective, because back in the day, if you had heard those people talk, it would have singed your ears right off your head. some of the stuff they said and claimed to believe. Now, a lot of that was bluster. A lot of it was posturing of guys who were kind of racist, but they were also showing off in front of the other guys who were also racist. So it's not like they did anything. It's not like they were in that KKK or whatever. They were big mouth idiots. And racism is born of ignorance. So it's really hard for a hardcore person who's racist to maintain their racism if they're a worldly figure, right? Like if you have an education and travel around the world and meet all sorts of interesting people, how are you going to become a racist? You have to be deeply ignorant of the world and how it works. Donald Trump's been a millionaire his whole life. He's traveled the world so many times, he's probably forgotten about more places than you'll ever see. He's got a college education from an Ivy League school. He's got a master's, I believe it's in business, probably. He's no dummy. So the idea that he could somehow still, after all that education and all that travel and meeting so many people and being a celebrity, no, it just doesn't make any sense. Why does he have this reputation, you might say? Oh, if it wasn't true, why does everybody keep saying it? Well, why do people keep saying anything about Trump, or for that matter, any president? It's because he's the president. And who says it is what you got to look at, and who is saying it is the opposition. The opposition in Trump case is most of the media. And these guys have said all kinds of crazy things about Trump. They didn't just say he was racist. They also said he is a sexual predator. Now look at the treatment he got as opposed to Joe Biden. It's night and day. They've also said he is a Russian asset who took prostitutes to a hotel in Moscow to have the prostitutes pee on him. And that, the Russians then filmed that and somehow blackmailed him to become president of the United States and somehow give them favors which never materialized. How does that work? How does that comport with his behavior of constantly lying and screwing people he doesn't like? I don't think Donald Trump would put up with that for a second. And I don't think the world's most shameless man would have any problem going, oh, you got videotape of me getting peed on by hookers? That's not me. That's not me. It's a problem solved. So, this guy is a typical 80s Democrat, and he's a typical guy in his 70s. I mean, he's a little smarter and a little more shrewd and certainly more rich than most people. But I haven't seen him really say anything that was too crazy. Now, people point to the Charlotte incident where he sort of gave us a word salad, and in the end, it eventually came out that a lot of it was taken out of context. And you listen to the words, and, it's about how you're using the pronouns. And what the media does is it points to one particular sentence and says, well, see, the pronouns in this case, he was talking about the bad people. But when you really listen to it and you give him the benefit of the doubt, you realize, yeah, he's not talking about, those people in that particular sentence. And you'd have to believe that a guy with a master's degree, world-traveled billionaire who's become president of the United States is so stupid he'd get on national TV just to proclaim his racism to ruin himself. I mean, it doesn't make even a lick of sense. So, you could see the breakdown of it from, say, like Scott Adams. He's got an interesting breakdown of it. I mean, I didn't believe it when it happened. Trump gets up and he rambles. He rambles off the top of his head all the time. And some people go, well, there's truth in that. The truth slips out. Does it? I've heard people blather about all kinds of things. I've heard some people blather right to my face. Total 100% lies, knowing that they were lying to me. And they were consistent in their lies. So, yeah, I don't believe that for a second. You also can't, hold the thought, well, Trump is an evil Machiavellian genius who's all going to put us in some sort of dystopian future camps and kill us all and never leave the presidency. And at the same time, he's such an idiot and a moron that he believes all this nonsense or things he's seen on the internet. Evidence suggests the opposite. Evidence suggests he is incredibly shrewd. Evidence suggests that he is like 7 moves ahead of the media. He's run circles around them for almost 4 years. They said he was going to blow us up in World War III because of North Korea. Then they said he was a Russian double agent. Then they said he was a Ukrainian agent. It's just one thing after. Oh, then they said he's making too big of a deal of this virus. Then he said he's not making a big enough deal about this virus. And then they said, oh, he's got to use the special powers of the presidency to make PPE. And then they said, well, now he's used the special powers of the presidency to open up the meat factory and he's going to kill us all. You can see the pattern. The people who are his political enemies take the opposite stance, no matter what it is. No matter what it is, I'm quite sure, and it's already happened, you'll see his political rivals defend China. And they have. They've defended the Communist Party of China. The Communist Party of China that rounds up the Uyghurs and tortures and kills them and does horrific things, including rape to the Uyghur people. It's just horrific to see people in the media defend them just to score a few political points on Twitter. Now, Trump's no choir boy, certainly. I'm sure he's said a couple of things, and I'm sure he's got a few stereotypes rattling around in his head. But he's not one of these ethno-nationalists. He's not Robert Byrd. Robert Byrd was a senator, a Democratic senator, who who, by the way, was the mentor of Hillary Clinton. He was actually in the KKK. Okay, there's a famous picture of him in the uniform, still in the KKK, and he didn't die to 87, I think. I forget the Wikipedia entry. It was a pretty long time. You'd think, when I started talking about that guy, well, that guy must have died in like 1970. No. He was still in office all the way until he died. So, what do you think about that? I mean, if you look back on history, you can see that the Republican Party, it held some pretty bad views 20, 30 years ago. But you keep winding the clock back, and guess who becomes the racist then? It becomes the Democratic Party, because the Republicans freed the slaves, and they hated the Republicans down south. There were a lot of angry racists down south. So guess which party they joined? They joined the Democrats. And when they weren't racist enough, they made the KKK a political party, and they ran a few guys into Congress from there. So look it up. Look it up. Let's just tap the brake, okay? Trump isn't a racist. And if he is, he's no more racist than anybody else who's ever held the office. He's no more racist than anybody else in Washington. And he plays the political game. And anyway, the guy flew the pride flag at the RNC, destroying the issue of being gay in the Republican Party. I mean, that was a huge step forward for the Republican Party. They had been anti-gay for a long time in their platform, basically. It was in their DNA. Now that issue's dead. Yeah, there's probably a bunch of hardcore evangelicals out there roaming around going, ooh, Trump. But who cares about them? They don't number enough to matter. And their views are, the Republicans sent them a strong message. That's over. So the idea that the Republican Party and Trump doesn't support, civil rights and things like that, it's absurd. It's absurd on its surface. They obviously do. They obviously do. And at the end of the day, they have something in common with the Democrats. They don't really care. They're politicians, and politicians don't really care. What they care about are votes. So if it's in vogue to not like a group of people, well, yeah, they might start being racist again. But that's very, very, very unlikely to happen. Maybe when aliens land, racism will be a thing again. It'll be like, oh, those darn aliens, the earth is only for humans, and that'll be the new kind of racism. It'll just be like Alien Nation, if you've ever seen that TV show. But until that happens, and even then, it'll just be going through the motions. Donald Trump is about as racist as he is religious, meaning that he doesn't give a crap. He goes through the motions of religion because, yeah, he's a Republican. He's got to be religious. He's not a racist. Okay, he puts on a show and he says what he needs to say to keep his power. He cares about his family. He cares about himself, his family, and his friends. And that pretty much describes just about everybody I've ever met. You care about yourself, your family, and your friends, and everybody else said, do you really care about them? Not that you want to see them die, but you don't really care. You can only care about so many people in your life. There's a limit to the amount of people you could actually care about and not be like a virtue signaling douchebag on Twitter going, oh, I care about the world so much, everyone in it and every being. No, you can't. You don't have the cognitive ability to even know all those people. So stop. Okay, just leave that alone, because first off, if you're a Democrat, you'd like to see the Democrats win. It's not a winning issue. No one believes Donald Trump is racist, really. The people who are saying it are just a bunch of hysterical maniacs who are making you look bad. These are the hardcore Bernie bros, the communists. They believe everyone's racist. The Twitterati who are hardcore, they believe everyone's racist. They believe you're racist, Joe Biden and his supporters. They believe every white person is racist. They've said as much in their post, and they're ridiculous. It's ridiculous hyperbole designed to get a rise out of you. That's all it is. So I would say tap the brakes and start to think again. And confront Trump on his policies. Spending too much money, that's for sure. That's a winning issue for you. Spending too much money, oh, he is. Even in this crisis, I think he's spending too much money. Hopefully it's not going to drop the bottom out of the economy and send us spiraling into inflation, but we'll see. In the meantime, though, I would just drop this entire notion that Trump is racist. But that's me. I don't think he really cares. I just don't think he cares. He cares about his family, his friends, himself. He cares about his country. Why wouldn't he? He's running the country. Of course he cares about it. His businesses are here. He lives here. His family lives here. Of course he cares. He cares because he has to care. You care because you have to care. That's how it works. Anyhow, that's my take.